Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe that there are Martians? No, first of all, there's nobody on Mars. Okay, we already been there, done that. There's nothing there, but not even microbes. And obviously, there's nobody on the moon except the man. The man is on the moon. But is there life in the outer planets? Is there? Well, and the SETI Institute has been trying to figure that out for years. Something somewhere out there in the far distant uh, universe. I don't think there's any life in the immediate galaxy. Nothing in the Milky Way. We've already exhausted every possibility of checking that so far. Mars with several probes, starting back in the 60s with the Mariner. We've had those the Viking missions and all. And there's nothing there but a bunch of red rocks. Obviously, that's from the iron oxide, but the atmosphere really sucks. And I've often thought of this weird fantasy. It's what a way to commit suicide. Just imagine it would be kind of exotic. You go on a space mission a manned mission to Mars, which hasn't happened yet. We're supposed to be doing that in a couple of years. But when you get to the surface, just don't put on when you get on the surface, but before you open the doors to go out and step onto the planet, just don't wear a spacesuit. Oh man, can you imagine that? You put one foot down, you just walk out as is, and man, you will die instantly. There is no oxygen out there. My God, it will crush you. You'll be exposed to radiation instantly. Just imagine how you die, man. Ugh, that's a scary death. Here, just guy pushes you out into the surface of Mars. Fend for yourself. You're just like, sure. You got about 3 seconds to live. But boy, you'll have some kind of a view before you died. I'm the first man on Mars without a spacesuit. Total of 3 seconds. Jeez. Man, that's harrowing when you think about it. Man, that scares me to death. Can you imagine how going into space like that? What a way to die. I was thinking about that. Just like if you could think of, and not to be morose or kind of macabre today, but I was thinking there's all kinds of ways to commit suicide. That would be the most exotic way. Go to Mars. Don't bring any spacesuit. Go with 3 guys. 2 guys have a spacesuit, and 1 guy doesn't. You draw lots, and the 1 guy that doesn't get that draws the lot that says no spacesuit. He is obligated, for sheer manhood. He's got to go out there because his buddies are counting on him not to chicken out. So they all go in the air compression chamber. The guys with the suits on, they're fine, but the other guy has no suit at all. They open up the door, and right there is Mars. Nothing between total suffocation and the inside of the spaceship. And they push him out. Fend for yourself, moron! And they just watch the guy. He suffocates to death in like 3 seconds flat. And then, of course, there's Saturn, the one planet that all women astronauts want to go to because there's rings around it. Beautiful rings. You notice no men want to go to Saturn. Only women want to go to Saturn because of the rings. Wedding rings, engagement rings, friendship rings, whatever. They all want to go. I'm just kidding. That's a little planetary humor, planetary sexist humor on my part. I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. And then, of course, there's wonderful, steaming hot, hotter than hell, Mercury. That's the planet that all the Australians love the most. Why? Because they love to break out their Barbie, right? Put another shrimp on the Barbie, mate. Well, you go to Mercury, all you gotta do is throw the shrimp in a crater. 3 seconds later, instant barbecue. Bring the whole gang down, mate. So bring all your mates, mate. We're gonna have a Barbie on Mercury. What the frick is that? But and to me, I'm interested in the fact that they decided to designate that they kind of downgraded, or they kind of stripped him from his rank. Little Pluto, who's no longer a planet. Kind of disgraced Pluto the last few years. It used to be a planet for like a long time. Now it's like it's just It's just a rock out there now. It's just what is it? What do they call it now? And that's an asteroid. That's all. It's just an asteroid. It's a big asteroid. Well, all the Plutonians, they pissed off a lot of Plutonians, whatever. They pissed off a lot of people on Pluto. Okay, people, well, whatever they are, they're like Pluto the dog. That's the only form of life on Pluto. Pluto the dog. Just ask Walt Disney. But anyway, they pissed him off because I'm no longer a planet. How dare you? They got a lot of nerve there in NASA, don't they? I'm fascinated with all these planets. When I was a kid, I wanted to go to each and every one. I wanted to go to each and every one of them. Except Mars. I was scared of Mars because remember the H.G. Wells novel, War of the Worlds. You know, we actually believed back then. I mean, we know now there's nobody on Mars, but back then, I wasn't a contemporary of that novel. It was the third. I wasn't born in the 1890s, but when we read that novel when we were kids, H.G. Wells kind of painted this picture that there was kind of an ominous, very, very aggressive force that was living on Mars, and they were looking through these telescopes right down to Earth, and they had just planned an all-out attack on Earth. You saw those movies; they were great. Oh man. And they had these death rays, you know. They had these death rays, you know. You just look at them and don't shoot me with a death ray. And we believed all that crap. And actually, back in history, in the 1930s, that novel was taken so seriously. This is really a true thing. That H.G. Wells, not H.G., that Orson Welles, not H.G. Wells, the writer of the book, but Orson Welles, the famous guy that did Citizen Kane, the actor. Well, he was a radio producer and a radio actor at one time in the 1930s. I think it was the 30s, the late 30s. And he scared the living crap out of us about thousands and thousands of people because he actually did a reenactment of the War of the Worlds novel of H.G. Wells. And there was no warning ahead of time that it was going to be that it was a dramatization. We're listening to it at home or in their car radios. Back then, in their Model Ts or whatever the heck they were back then, I don't know, in their car radios or their home radios, there was no warning that it was an actual dramatization. Instead, it was a really realistic reenactment of that book. And people who had just turned on the radio just slightly after the disclaimer that he had on there, saying this is just a play, this is just a story from a novel. Don't worry about it; it's not real. But the people who missed that introductory kind of disclaimer, they were scared to live. They were scared to death. They actually thought the Martians were landing on Earth in New Jersey, of all places, which is my home state. They were coming there, and they were killing people instantly with those ray guns, those laser guns. And then people were so scared that the people in the high rises in New York City at the time when that radio show was on, they jumped to their death. They actually jumped out of windows because they were scared to death. They actually jumped out of windows because they were afraid the Martians were going to get them. They actually were afraid the Martians were landing here. I mean, that was gullible. It was tragic in a way. It was tragic in some ways, but it was still, they were gullible. And Orson Welles probably felt guilty for years and years after that. Of course, it didn't keep him from, he didn't stay guilty because he went on to film Citizen Kane. But that was War of the Worlds, the Martians. And then we go there, the late 20th century, early 21st century, and there's nobody there. All that for nothing. And I've decided in my own way of thinking that, from my own personal opinion, the only planet I wish existed out there in the netherworlds of the universe is the planet Barbarella. Personally, sell everything I have. I just mortgage off my life to take a trip to the planet of Barbarella, because there's only one resident there on that planet. It's Jane Fonda. Not Jane Fonda now, Jane Fonda then. Did you ever see her in that costume? I'm going to planet Barbarella. Don't let anybody fool you. Every man who has red blood running through his veins would take a trip to planet Barbarella. Okay? I'm not the only one.